Definitely. Well, before you take us out, we probably should have done this at the beginning of the podcast, and I'll clip it and put it at the beginning for the YouTube video. But the Concerning Hobbits radio drama, I know that this is quite the great transition, right? Going from this heavy set Aldarion and Erendis, but the Concerning Hobbits radio drama, the first episode has been released. It's on Spotify right now. It's really well done. Did they finally spread it out? Okay. Search Concerning Hobbits then. I've listened to it a couple of times. It's really good. These are all people, all the voices, all the editing, all the writing. It's all just fans of Tolkien wanting to tell a Tolkien story and be involved. And it's absolutely incredible. The first episode is great. It's setting the stage for a lot of fun coming up. And Sam and I are both getting ready to record our parts for episodes 2 and 3. We don't have big parts, but hey, we're in there, and it's just a pleasure to be a part of it. And it's fun to see a group of passionate Tolkien fans create something. It's easy to just tear Rings of Power. Sorry, that's just right off the tongue. Rings of Power. It's so easy to just tear it apart, but it's really special to create something in place of that. As create something that should have been type of thing. So not that I can take any credit for anything at all. But it's just, it's awesome to be a part of it. So I just want to make sure we toss that in there.
Absolutely. Yeah, definitely should have been something that we said at the beginning. It's going to be, really excited for the next couple episodes that are coming out. And it's cool because, like you said, it's a passion project. Like this is not expected to turn into like any sort of, there's no money involved, so we're not trying to please anybody. Or Lane, rather, who's the writer, is not like, he's just sharing something he's passionate about and diving deeper into hobbits, and it's pretty fun. And you find out there are some warriors amongst the lineage of the hobbits that we'll get to see. So yeah, super fun. And it's, like I said, it's fun to just be a part of, to like be like, yeah, I did that. Like that was, I had some place in the Tolkien world. In the renditions of it. It's kind of fun. So yeah, make sure to check that out. Like Seth said, Concerning Hobbits, anywhere you look on podcasts, you'll be able to find it. But yeah, go check that out. I am ready. Wait. No, I am ready.
All right, we're live. It's on the recording. I went through after I hit the live button, but I think I smelled it over here.
Welcome, my lords, to the Well-Earned Comforts podcast. I'm Sam.
And I'm Seth.
Thanks for joining us on the Walls of Isengard as we explore the many works of Tolkien and, of course, discuss life. We're glad to have you as part of the fellowship, as there's no telling where we'll be swept off to, and it's been like 2 months now since we podcasted, and so both new dads of newborns, and my newborn dad brain is running on fumes today, and so we'll see how this goes, but I'm really excited to be back. It's been a long time, like I mentioned, and just get to talk some Tolkien with my brother Seth, and also just get to talk life. Like that's part of our podcast. Whether you like it or not, you can skip through it if you want. That's totally fine, but we talk life because we're brothers, and this is honestly some of the most time we get to actually interact with one another. So I will go ahead and jump in with Babbling Like Butterbur with that brother Seth over there in Michigan. How's it going? What's new? How many new gray hairs you got?
More than I can count. A lot, but that's all right. I don't think that's the reason of anything in life per se. I think that's Dad's fault, as briefly mentioned in the last podcast. But things are going well. It's been very busy. The school semester is now finished. I submitted everything, and then I have 1 year left until I finally graduate. I'm done with finally done with all the annoying research and master's classes and the classes that I just don't care to deal with. So I'll be getting into all the clinicals here in the upcoming year. It'll be very, very busy because I'll be doing that like 2 days a week, and then I'll be working 3 days a week, and it's gonna be a lot, but it'll be good. And Ben is now 4 months old, which I went back and listened to last week. Who am I kidding? The last podcast that we did like 2 months ago, because he had just turned 2, and I was talking about like, oh man, it's kind of hard right now. Like you're just pouring into him, and all he does is scream, and now he's like the most happy-go-lucky baby. He's always smiling. Like as long as he sleeps and he eats, he's just the happiest little kid. He kicks all the time. You look at him and he just gets this very, very, he honestly reminds me of Baron, like, because Evie was a very stoic baby and she would smile, but didn't really smile a ton. And Baron was always smiling. And that's how Ben is. He's just always got a smile on his face. And you just walk by and he tracks you and he gets a big smile on his face. So it's been a blast getting to actually bond with him and feeling that like reciprocated love that he's finally, giving back to us. And we had his 4-month appointment today and he's still in the 90th percentile for height. So he's wearing 6-month clothes and he has been for about 2 weeks and he's barely 4 months old. So it's pretty crazy. Wow. So life's good. Amanda is a champ doing it with the 2 kids while I work, 12, 13 hours a day when I am at work, and with school and everything. She's done the brunt of the parenting and housework and everything. And it's people who joke and say, oh, you want to be a stay-at-home mom and, what, you don't want to work? And it's like, no, you're working probably harder than I am. So
100%.
Yeah, that's us though. I'm like you said, I'm stoked to be able to finally talk some Tolkien with you again.
Yeah, agreed. It's been far too long. Oh man. Yeah, going back to what you said, like that 2-month stage that you were in last podcast is where we currently are in now. And so that's been very challenging. But yeah, we get to welcome, I mean, he wasn't even here last podcast.
That's true. That's true.
Welcoming. That's right. LSR David Moldenhauer, boy number 2 in our family. And he's fun. He's cute. He's got a big old belly. Like he's talking about high percentiles for bellies. Like for whatever reason, his stomach is like the 70th percentile or something. So he's got this big old belly and he just started to start cracking smiles and stuff, but definitely in a needy stage of life still. And so, I mean, that's definitely hard on Ariel for, like you said, the time that I'm gone, she's bouncing Ellis or whatever. And Baron, he's awesome. But he's a little jealous.
Mm-hmm.
He loves Ellis. He calls him I. It's hilarious. He'll say I. Sometimes that's like the first thing he says in the morning when I pick him up from bed. He's like I. I'm like, yeah, he's down there. And but he gets jealous, and there's that brotherly love that's already come out. He just will randomly come up to Ellis and smack him in the face or something if he is feeling like he hasn't gotten attention enough recently. But
he knows who to blame for it.
Oh yeah, for sure. but Bear's like, he is he's a kid. Like he's not a baby anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know when that change happened. It feels like it happened when we left for the hospital for Ellis. We came back and he was a kid. We didn't have a baby anymore. And that is just so weird because he's talking like he knows, like, I'm daddy, that's mommy, that's I, he's Baron. Like he knows all this stuff. His favorite thing in the world is to watch me mow the lawn right now. And he'll say lawn mow. That's like how he says it.
That's so awesome. Funny.
We just finished watching the trilogy with him last night, which, I mean, we skipped through the majority of it.
Sure.
Because of scary images and stuff like that. But he loves it. He absolutely loves it. We let him watch like the Battle of Pelennor because of elephants and stuff. And
oh wow,
he was just making all these faces of like do that. And then Aragorn's speech, I bid you stand, men of the West. He's like, ah. You can tell like there's a warrior in him. Like it's just a guy thing. I don't know, but he can already. I mean, the kid's ready to go to war.
He senses the weight of the moment, even though he can't really understand it.
Yeah, 100%. And we'll say like good guy, and we'll say bad guy, and so he'll be like guy, like good guy, bad. And so it's just so much fun watching him grow up and learn. And again, like I said, he's not a baby anymore, and it breaks my heart. But at the same time, it's so fun to enter into this stage where we get to interact more and actually have like short, tiny little conversations.
Mm-hmm.
We get to play a lot more, and so that's a lot of fun. Ariel's still definitely like in the postpartum. This one's taking a little bit longer than the last one, I think, because we didn't wait very long in between, and so she didn't heal all the way, and so she's not where she would want to be physically, just because of her body like still recovering. As one of our very crude but very kind friends told her at the gym when they bumped into each other, he said, yeah, it's like a car wreck happened inside of you. And I mean, that's an accurate description for the most part, somewhat. And so, but she's doing well. We're having a a good time out here, man. It's definitely hard without family. We're feeling that weight and that burden of like, man, it'd be great to just call over Sarah or Steven and get together with the kids, or call mom and dad over to watch them and have a date night or something like that. But we are going to celebrate our 10-year anniversary of dating this weekend. We're going to get a cabin together. We have some friends that are going to watch both kids overnight, just one night, and we're going to get away. There's a hot tub, and it'll be fun. We'll see if we can survive a night without the kids. If we'll be excited about that or just like missing it the whole time.
Yeah. I was telling Amanda this the other day, like, we are so excited when they finally go to bed, and it's like, all right, I get an hour to myself before I go to sleep, or I might stay up and play video games or watch the Avs games, last week. Come on. And I know it still hurts. And I was telling her, like, I'm so excited to have some free time. And then the second she goes to sleep and I look at the baby monitor, I'm like, I miss my girl. Like, I want to go get her. I want to go grab her. I want to go snuggle her. I want to wake her up and go play with her. Like you were saying, she is not a baby anymore. She's a little kid. And she, we've been doing speech therapy. One of her therapists wanted to do like a formal evaluation after X amount of time in the program and stuff. And so we did the first part of it, which was like how well she receives information and understands it, because her speech is still, it's coming. It's not great, but she's actually putting sentences together now. She's almost 3, so that's, it's pretty good. She's catching up. But we were blown away by her like level of understanding for receptive language. The speech therapist was like, I go until she stops getting questions right. She has to get 6 in a row wrong before the test ends per this test. And she was like years beyond where she's supposed to be. And it was like, holy crap. So even though she doesn't necessarily, speak everything clearly to where we can have a full-blown conversation, she knows exactly what I'm saying, which is almost a little infuriating at times too, because it means that she's just blatantly ignoring me too.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
But those little conversations, it's very special. Yeah. I'm glad that Bear's able to do that with you. I'm sure it's nice to kind of have some time with him and be like, all right, I can just focus on you and have those conversations. And it's very different parenting and care than it is with Ellis.
Yeah. Yeah, yesterday after I came home from work, I sent Ariel off to the gym. I'll try to go in the gym in the morning or something, and then she goes like after I come home from work, and that way she just gets an hour to herself, after being with 2 kids under 2 for 8 hours straight. But I just sent her off to the gym, and I put Ellis in the Moby wrap on my chest, and Bear and I just went on a barefoot walk around the neighborhood. We have like this little, it's probably like a 1/4 mile loop that we do. He can walk the whole thing, and he wanted to hold my hand. He kept reaching up, say Han, and so I'd hold his hand, and then I'd just ask him questions, and he'd be like, yeah, no, yeah, like I don't know if he knew exactly what I was trying to say, but he was just like interacting with me. And of course, anytime we see a garbage bin, he points gaga, or somebody mowing the lawn.
Yeah, you said he loves watching the garbage man, right?
Oh yeah. He lives for it, man. It's fun. So yeah, those are precious moments for sure.
They are.
It's going so fast, but at the same time, this newborn stage is,
it's a challenge.
It was so much easier the first time, because it was just easy to just like, we could take turns holding him. You just stare at him and laugh and look at him. Mm-hmm. And now we're chasing around a toddler who is similar to, like, he knows when he's not supposed to do things, and he knows he can get away with things a little bit easier nowadays. And disciplining a 19-month-old is so hard. But we're getting there. And it's fun. It really is. It's such a joy. And genuinely, like, all we have to talk about, obviously, is our kids. So
yeah. Well, I'm honestly proud of you guys. I know doing what we're doing is very similar with just not having family around, and it is not easy. And you're my little brother, and Ariel's younger than you, and it's like you guys are in it, like the exact same stage of life with what, like 5-6 less years of life experience. I mean, you guys are doing very well, and we're very proud of you guys. We can't wait to meet little Ellis.
Thanks, man. Yeah, you guys set a good example.
Oh, thank you.
Enough of the sappiness. Come on, what is this? A rom-com podcast. This is a ladies talking podcast. No, this is a Tolkien talking podcast. We're going to jump into some riddles in the dark, and we're going to change things up a little bit. We've been doing the same thing for, a couple of years now, which is crazy to think about, but we're going to change it up a little bit. So, Seth, why don't you explain our new format for Riddles in the Dark?
Yeah, so we're going to kind of pilot this and see how it works, but basically I got this idea off of ChatGPT playing with it. I was playing this game with ChatGPT where I would tell it to pick a character in any of Tolkien. I mean, you do what you got to do. Amanda's not going to play this game with me. But what you do is I told it to pick a character and answer yes or no, or like very direct answers for my questions, and I would time myself and see how quickly I could guess the character. And it could be any character in Tolkien's Legendarium. And so basically I've got a character in my mind. Sam's going to ask, is the character blank? Is the character blank? And I'll just yes, no, or it's the characters of this race. And we're going to time and see who can guess the character the quickest. So I'll have a stopwatch here. I don't know. You can probably see it okay. I'll start a stopwatch for each of us, and then we'll just compare times and see who's got it.
All right.
So are you going first or am I?
I'll guess first.
You want to guess first?
Yeah, just in case we do have the same person.
There's no way. There's no way. Zero chance. I promise.
There's always a chance.
All right. When you're ready, or are you ready? All right.
Yeah.
All right. I've got the countdown here, and in 3, 2, 1, go.
All right. Is this character in the first age?
Yes.
Is this character also in the second age?
No.
Is this character a Valar?
No.
Is this character a Maiar?
No.
Is this character a man?
No.
Is this character an elf?
No.
Is it Huon the goodest of boys? Okay. Does this character have more than 2 feet?
That's being very specific. I don't know, somewhere around there. Probably a little bit more than that.
What? This character has more than 2 feet.
Oh, no. I thought you meant height. Wow, I just ruined it. Okay. That's a pretty good hint.
So is this character a dwarf?
Yes.
Is this character a smith?
They all are, but not a well-known one.
Okay. Is he a petty dwarf?
Yes.
Is it Meme the dwarf?
Correct. Meme the dwarf, 127.
Nice.
Nicely done. Okay. See, you did well. I gave him too good of a hint, though.
You helped out. Yeah, helped out.
You said 2 feet, and I thought you meant in height, not like actually 2 feet.
Yeah, no. I was thinking geez. Is he had any character? Is he like bringing in a horse or something that I don't know?
That was pretty good. I'm impressed. I've got something to live up to here.
All right. Well,
you count me down, and I'll hit the timer.
3, 2, 1, go.
Is this character in the first age?
No.
Is this character in the second age?
No.
Is this character in the third age?
Yes.
Is this character only in the third age?
Yes.
Okay. Is this character a man?
Yeah.
Is this Han Bolihan?
Yeah. Wow. Gosh dang it.
24 seconds.
That's crazy. I knew he was on your brain somewhere. I figured.
No, it's what did I say? Is this character a man? And you hesitated, so I'm like, okay, it's either one of the dead men of Dunharrow, or it's got to be one of the Pukul men.
The Pukul men.
The Pukul men. The Pukul men.
I was trying to do something like super obscure, but it's also kind of niche, so I might have shot myself in the foot there. But
no, that was actually a really good one. Honestly, I'm glad I remembered his name. That was fun.
Well done.
Yes, likewise.
All
But
right,
both of those
well,
were obscure characters for us to nail. So well done. Well done.
yeah. I liked that. That was a fun one. We should try that again for sure.
Definitely.
Let's move on quickly to some tidings of the fellowship. So we actually do have some tidings.
We do.
some
It's been
interesting
so
tidings
long that we actually have tidings.
It has been a long time. Mom, shout out Mom.
Shout out Mom.
Commented on Spotify. She said how much of his, referring to Aldarion, with our conversation that we've been having, how much of his longing for the sea is that he needs his next conquest. He got her to say yes. Now he needs another challenge. Sigh. True. Yeah. I mean, it seems like he always has to have something to conquer. But it's a good observation.
I think it's definitely
tells me, Mom, that you disagree.
Yeah, I think that I definitely agree with her on that to some extent. I don't think it's the whole picture, but I think it is a big picture.
Yeah. And then we got another comment from Steven, referring to, so I guess last podcast I talked about my coffee grinder that I had, and I just said grinder, and then Seth was like, oh, you got a grinder account? And I was like, no, it's a coffee grinder. And so Steven just said coffee grinder. Got it. LOL. So yeah, definitely don't want to give the wrong impression. And Steven, thanks for listening, man.
Yes, thank you. And thank you for commenting that.
I would love to hear from you. Yeah. I mean, make fun of Seth next time. But we also got a couple emails as well to our podcast@gmail.com email. First and foremost from cousin Luke Linville. He gave us a really good email with some suggestions on future podcasts that we might take into account, especially as we're moving away from hopefully the Mariner's Wife will be able to finish that next episode. We're going to dive into part 3 today, but hopefully we'll be able to finish that up and kind of shift gears a little bit. But he started off with saying, hey, Seth and Sam, write an email because this is too many words to put into a text. Yes, it is. And I'm not going to read all of them, Luke, but we'll get to them at some point. But he said, I just listened to the latest episode, and as asked for, because we did ask this, he says, I have an interesting topic that you guys might want to consider looking into for future episodes. He says, I've been thinking a lot recently about the significance of many of the supporting characters leading up to and during the events of the Fellowship's journey. I think it's really interesting how characters such as Glorfindel's experience events that eventually result in aiding Frodo even thousands of years down the road. And he goes into like some more context with both Glorfindel and kind of the parallel stories of him and Gandalf and the Balrogs and the fighting and all that kind of stuff. And so I think it's a fantastic idea and a really good
I like that
opportunity. Yeah. So appreciate the thoughts, Luke, and the ideas. We'll probably jump in there some point. And then we also got Alexander Lorian, or Alexi as he prefers to be called, sent us a very long email just really defending Feanor. He makes some good points, and gosh, I wish I had time to read through them because it's interesting, and we could probably have like a whole episode debating this guy about it. But I mean, we've done that. Go listen to our Feanor episode. But his whole thing is why Yavanna has no claim on the Silmarils, because he's saying, like, you know, even though we lost the light of the two trees, he's like, well, or the sun and the moon, like you can't take somebody else's creation just because you want it for, you know, for the better of mankind. I don't know.
He's basically arguing that the Silmarils are Feanor's intellectual property and that they cannot be replicated in any way, even by Feanor himself, which is the same argument that Feanor makes when he's speaking to the Valar. And he's not wrong. He really isn't. The argument is a good argument to stand on, but at the same time, what are you willing to sacrifice for the betterment of everybody? What transpires if he does break the Silmarils and they are able to regrow the trees? And do they chase Morgoth? You know,
yeah.
Well, I guess probably Morgoth is already killing his dad and stealing the Silmarils concurrently with this, so they probably chase him anyways. I don't know. It might change a whole lot. It might not change anything. I don't know.
Right. And I think, I mean, kind of his point he focuses on too is that like Feanor really didn't have anything left. Like it was just these Silmarils, like, you know, his mom died and everyone else just doesn't really like him. And I don't know, it's an interesting argument that we could definitely have, but you know, worth a further dive into later on. But thank you, Alexi, for being willing to share your thoughts with us, and welcome to the fellowship tue. I don't know how long you've been listening, but we're super glad to have you here.
I wonder if he's so far behind that he just listened to our episode debating Feanor with our friend from Twitter.
Yeah.
Probably. That's awesome.
Yeah, that was a little while ago, but yeah, super awesome.
Super thankful to have new listeners.
Absolutely. Yeah. Keep them coming. We're going to jump into our meat and potatoes of the podcast. So we are jumping into part 3, like I said, of The Mariner's Wife. This is of Aldarion and Erendis in the Unfinished Tales, the Second Age. And so we see here, we kind of left off with Aldarion. He comes back and he's like ready to settle down with all the advice from his dad and his genuine love for Erendis. He's ready to settle down, and he asks her to marry him. Big deal, big super romantic gesture. He's ready to make that commitment after going back and forth, sitting on the fence for years, honestly. So we're going to jump in right at the wedding. Seth, why don't you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so the wedding took place in the year 807 of the Second Age, and this is finally when Aldarion makes it happen. If you remember, kind of Sam alluded to it, but he had left Middle Earth, and then he hastened back because he couldn't get Erendis out of his mind, and he was ready to finally settle down and get married and make this big commitment. And so he came back and he wooed her and finally got married. And so the wedding took place in Armenelos, which is, I've got a map right here behind me, but it's the city of the kings right up next to the Middletarma, the giant mountain in Númenor. And this was a very beautiful wedding, a lot of detail as Tolkien is wont to give. But long story short, they kind of took their honeymoon by riding to the west of the Isle, towards Romena, towards Andunier on the western shore, where Valandil was holding a feast. And if you remember, this is the same Valandil that held a feast prior, and he had said something along the lines of like comparing Erendis to Uinen. Yeah, daughter of Uinen. And she is like, I am no such thing, rather she is my foe. And so he likes to hold feasts, and this one went over a little bit better. And just kind of a fun little tidbit. I don't know if I touched on this in the last podcast, but Valandil, he was a noble. He's of the same line of Aldarion. He's just not of the ruling line. So he is technically Aldarion's first cousin once removed, and he is a descendant of Tar Elendil, and he's actually who Elendil and Isildur and Aldarion are from. They're from that line, not of the line of Aldarion. And anyways, just fun little tidbit. But while they're in Andunier looking out at the sea, that I just, in my head, in the picture that Tolkien plants, it's like they're on their honeymoon. It's just beautiful. They have a villa just overlooking the ocean, and Aldarion, he wakes up and he's just standing out there watching the sea, and he sees this ship coming from the west. And so what's to the west? It's Tol Eressëa. It's the Undying Lands. It's Valinor. And this is unlike any ship they had ever seen before. And Aldarion mentions that to Erendis, and he's like, that's an elven ship. And Tolkien actually phrases this beautifully, but he says, their ship was laden with flowers for the adornment of the feast, so that all that sat there, even when evening was come, were crowned with Eleanor, which is the same flower that is in Lothlorien that Sam actually names his daughter after, and sweet Lisuinen, whose fragrance brings heart's ease. And so the elves just brought gifts, beautiful gifts, for Aldarion and Erendis and for the people at the feast. And Tolkien goes on to say that even with the elves and everybody at this giant feast, none were more fair than Erendis. And they said that her eyes were as bright as the eyes of Morwen Eladwin of old. And if you remember back when we did our Children of Hurin podcast, Morwen they called her Elf Maiden because she was just so incredibly beautiful. She was like the most beautiful woman of the First Age that, wasn't an elf. And so they were comparing Erendis to Morwen. And so the elves actually continued to bring gifts, and a couple of notable gifts that they brought was a white sapling of a tree, and this was actually the ancestor of Nimloth the Fair that Sauron burns. That is actually a fruit of that is rescued by Isildur as he's fleeing Númenor, which maybe that's another podcast we have to do, is why Isildur was done dirty, and he's actually an awesome, like, great character.
Absolutely.
But that's how the tree got there in the first place, which is, they had a really interesting dialogue about it. I think Aldarion says something to the extent of like, wow, you have this tree, the wood of that tree must be incredibly valuable. And the elves are like, we wouldn't know. We don't cut them down. We don't know how valuable it is. So it's an incredible gift to get this tree. And then they also brought these two birds. They were, what was it? They were gray with golden like feet, and they sang beautifully. And the elves actually told Aldarion, they said, we have spoken to them and named you. Or actually, I think they're speaking to Erendis when they say this, but they say, we have spoken to them and named you, and they will stay with you wherever they dwell. They mate for life, and that is long. Maybe there will be many such birds that sing in the gardens of your children. So the elves are basically saying these birds mate for life. They will have offspring. They will populate your garden. It will be beautiful. And we've named you, so they're going to follow you everywhere. And so they were speaking to Erendis, which that becomes important later.
Yeah. Kind of like, hey, this is like, it's supposed to symbolize you guys and what you're to do. But we'll get into it. But I mean, they do end up having a child. 2 years later, Erendis does conceive and follows in Seth's footsteps and has a daughter first. And she was named Ancalime, the most beautiful of the line of Elros, save only, as Seth put, for Tar Miriel. Rings of power, or rings of prime, rather. So yeah, she's, I guess, our Tar Miriel from Rings of Prime is just slightly more beautiful than Ancalime, I guess.
They don't make them very pretty on Númenor, apparently.
Yeah, tough. But anyway, and Erendis was actually really happy that she bore a girl first. You know, rather than having a son right away to take on the heirship of like the kingship of Aldarion, she's like, okay, well, maybe he won't leave or want to leave as much now because he hasn't born a son first. Like, he'll want to raise up his daughter, and then he'll want to, continue trying to have a son so that he can have an heir. But she still feared the sea. She was still no daughter and a foe of the sea. And as Tolkien puts it, not without cause was Erendis' fear. So Tolkien's saying, like, yeah, there's a reason. Like, she has some intuition here that unfortunately we'll see here play out in a little bit. But yeah, after 5 years, Aldarion begins busying himself by planting forest and obtaining enough timber for his ships. So he's doing seamanship stuff, mariner stuff, without actually going to the sea. Like, he's 5 years is actually a long time for him to have stayed on land, and he's hanging out with his wife and his now daughter, but he always is planting more trees than he's felling, but he's still wanting to create these vast ships for seafaring. And his wife Erendis comes up to him and is like, what's all the busyness with the ships, Lord of the Havens? Have we not enough? How many fair trees have been cut short of their lives this year? Kind of a backhanded comment if you think about it. Like, yeah, I don't want to be sexist here, but women are good at that.
Well, Tolkien even says that she says it in kind of a playful but spiteful way. Like, I forget exactly how he describes it, but he definitely alludes to her being like passive aggressive in this statement.
Yeah, it's like Ariel's done that to me a couple times. Like, oh, that another that's another cookie you're gonna eat right there. That's great.
I'm glad you like my cooking.
Exactly. But so, yeah, she's like, what's going on here? What's your game? What's your planning? And he just responds with, a man must have work to do upon land, even though he have a fair wife. He's like, yeah, I love you a lot, but I still got to do something, which I totally understand. Like, men, we're made to work. We have to kind of be busy with something. And so he says, trees spring and trees fall. I plant more than I felled, which is, it's a fair statement. He's like, I'm working, I'm using these trees, but I'm also replanting enough, which for Tolkien would have been kind of what he would want for I mean, he was very against industry and the felling of trees. So this is kind of in line, I feel like, with what his heart would be.
Yeah.
But moving on, and Calime comes close to 4 years old, and Aldarion declares his desire to sail again. You know, he's waited for a long time, and he waited until her 4th birthday, and as Tolkien put it, made much of her. And so she was a joyful kid. She was a happy kid, but others were less so. And so at this time, like he's trying to decide, like, okay, how do I approach this, leaving her behind? And so then at bedtime, I don't know if he's like tucking her in or what, and she's like, all right, well, where will you take me this summer? And he just doesn't respond. Like he's such a non-emotive guy in a lot of ways.
He doesn't know how to respond, so he just doesn't.
Yeah, which I mean, man, there's multiple moments in this. Was as now a dad, like, it just kind of breaks my heart. You know, he just doesn't really have an answer for her, because he's like, I'm not going to take you with me, but I am going to leave.
Right.
And so he doesn't respond, and he leaves early in the morning to set in motion his plans for going back into the sea. So he gets everything set up, and then returns back home to bid Erendis and Calime farewell. And of course, Erendis is heartbroken. She's like, man, this is what I've been fearing, but hopefully he'll come back soon. This won't be that big. But for whatever reason, like, that grief kind of irked Aldarion. Like, that grief that he saw in his wife and the tears he saw kind of irked him and kind of hardened his heart a little bit. And as Tolkien put it, 8 years I've stayed. He's like, woman, why are you crying? Like, I've stayed a while. He's like, 8 years I have stayed. You cannot bind forever in soft bonds the son of the king of the blood of Tuor and Erendil. I shall return soon. So he's, at this point, he's kind of like, he's calling upon names of people. Like, he's finally using his title, but in a way that for his own selfish gain, because he's always pushed his title away, right? Like, he's never been like, I'm not ready to be king. I don't really want that. But now he's like, okay, when it serves me, I'm gonna like name Erendil and Tuor, and I'm gonna be like, yeah, no, this is what I'm made to do. This is what I'm called to do. And so, Erendis she doesn't just like roll her belly over. She actually pushes back a little bit and asks about his heirs and mentions, like, we don't live the same amount of time. You live a lot longer than I do. I have a lot less years. And she's like, all right, you better be back in 2 years then, if that's your plan. Like, if we want to have more kids, if you want to have a son to take on an heir, like, you got to be back in the next couple of years.
Well, he was saying, like, just give me 2 years. Just give me 2 years. And please, like, let me have 2 years. And then basically she says, like, rather what you're saying is you'll take 2 years whether I give them or not. Like, she's just resigned herself to, I know you're going to do what you're going to do.
But as we've seen before in the past too, like, he hasn't always kept this word of how long he's going to go. And so I think there's that in the back of her mind too, of like, she's just like, okay, well, how do I know it's going to be 2 years?
Which in his defense, as you'll see in the previous episodes we've done, like, it's not always his fault either. Like, there's a lot that he just could not control.
Yeah. So anyway, the next morning he lifted up and Calime, his daughter, and he kissed her, and she clung to him. But he sat her down and quickly rode off, which I think this is one of those things that when I first read it, I was like, man, that's pretty cold, dude. That's your daughter. Yeah. Like, what are you doing, man? But I think that was his, I think he just had to do it that way. He couldn't have an elongated goodbye. Like, dude, I take so long to leave for work nowadays. Because, I'll be like, bye, Bear. And he'll be like, bye, Dada. And like, oh, give me a hug. And I'll come over and give him a hug. And he loves to watch me leave from our bedroom window. And so I'll be like, go to the window. And like, we have this long drawn out goodbye. Right. Because I just don't want to leave. It breaks my heart.
And he doesn't want you to leave. He's like, clinging to you.
Right. Yeah. And
so
she's clinging to him. And he's like, I genuinely have to like just let you go and just leave. Like, if I'm going to leave, it has to be a quick, like, just ripping off the Band-Aid kind of thing. And so he sets sail from Númenor, and without the blessings of his father, Tarim and Eldor, and Erendis, she didn't give the green bow of return like she has in the past, nor did anyone do it. So it's kind of a depressing departure for him, which you think about some of our hobbies that we like, even this podcast, like Ariel's like, I'm glad you get to do it again. Like, go ahead, have fun with Seth. But there have been times when I've left for a softball game or something that like I wanted to do, but left on bad terms with Ariel, and it just didn't feel right. Like it was like, why am I? This isn't worth it. The joy is sucked out of it. I wonder if there's any of that for him, or if he's just like, nah, I'm good.
I'm sure there is, but he's a man driven by purpose, and his purpose doesn't always align with his actions, or maybe vice versa. His actions don't always align with his purpose. But I know exactly what you mean, and I don't know that I could do it. Like you put in the doc, I don't think I could do it, you said, and it's like, anytime that I've had to leave Evelyn, and she actually gets emotional, she'll like cry and like grab onto me, and it's like, kiddo, I'll be back. Like I will be home, but I have to go now. And it's like you said, that long drawn out, like for me personally, I basically have to give her that big sweet hug and give her a kiss and be like, all right, I'm leaving now. I love you. And just walk away while she's like having her conniption about it, as Amanda likes to use that word. I didn't even know what that word meant until I met Amanda. But yeah, it's just like, I don't know if I could do it either. Imagine just like, all right, Bear, you're 2, almost 2, and I'll see you when you're, well, as we'll see, he's not gone for 2 years. He's gone a lot longer. So, but in his mind, it's like, well, I'll see you when you're almost 4, bro. Like, imagine what you're missing out on, It's crazy.
Yeah, so much development, so many milestones. Yeah, it's crazy. But I mean, I have 2 trips for work I'm doing this year that I'm gonna be gone like 5 days each.
Yeah, that's gonna be hard.
Just dreading it. Like I was so excited about it, years prior, like get to go do these things. And Ariel always came with me too. That was the other thing. She's obviously not able to come with me this time, and so I'm really not looking forward to it. But it's something I have to do, and maybe that's what. Even though sailing is something he loves to do, maybe he feels like it's kind of like something he has to do as well. And he gets a lot of good information from it, as we'll see too. Like there's purpose, like you mentioned too. He's not just like yachting it out like a billionaire or something.
Right.
But anyway, back to Erendis. Aldarion leaves, and she just sat alone, and she's just so sad. And she felt in her heart a new pain, and it was a cold anger. And as Tolkien put it, her love of Aldarion was wounded to the quick. And so there was something that changed with this final parting. And I think maybe part of it was the fact that like he didn't really ask, he just did it. But she was just, her pain, her loneliness, her sadness turned to anger. And that's kind of how she viewed her husband now. So this moved her so much that she didn't even want to stay in Armenelos. She decides she needs to leave to Marie. So she takes Enkalime, and she returns to Marie in the middle of the Isle, away from the sea. And there's lots of sheep and plentiful pastures and stuff like that. And there she created a homestead. And there really weren't other men that came there other than some of the king's messengers every once in a while. But it's very secluded. They don't interact with anyone hardly at all. And it's just, I feel like she's kind of like taking like the one thing that she has that she loves left, and she's just going to pour everything into that person, as we'll see. But
yeah, and just kind of like what you already alluded to, I mean, something changed in Erendis at this moment. And if we're not that you can just, it's not black and white, you're not just putting the blame here, blame there, but pretty much up until this point, everything has been Aldarion's fault. And to some extent, pretty much everything past this point is Erendis' fault. And what came first, the chicken or the egg? What caused what? Like, you can get into all of that, right? But up until this point, Erendis was willing to forgive. She was willing to keep an open heart. She was willing to love. And this last parting, like you said, it changed her. And so she fled from Armenelos, like you mentioned, and one day, if you remember, we just talked about those birds that they were going to follow, right? So the elves had named her, and so these birds followed her. And so one day she woke up to the sounds of the birds singing, and they had traveled all the way from Armenelos to come sing for her outside of her home in Marie. And the way Tolkien quotes this, you can tell just like the pain that she has, but she actually yelled at the birds, and she said, "Sweet fools, fly away. This is no place for such joy as yours." and their song ceased, and they flew away westwards. Then they had settled in the windowsill of her parents, and I'm paraphrasing a bit here, to which her mother said, well, he's gone again and left her. She's dismissed the elven birds, and that was ill done. Why, my daughter, why? Surely you knew what you must face. She will not be healed here. He will come back, and then may the Valar send her wisdom, or guile at the least. And so her mom, like, if you remember, her mom in the last episode was like, it's all or nothing with you. As you were as a child, you are now. And for her to send those elven birds away, her mom knows that that's a sign that he left and she's done.
Yeah, pretty depressing.
Yeah, it's interesting that her mom's able to nail her like that. But being a parent, I could kind of see that. You know, it's like you get to know your kids pretty well. And so at this point in time, she's just Erendis has just left everything, like Sam mentioned, except for the one thing that she loves, and that's her daughter. So as time went on, she continued to just harden her heart towards pretty much everybody. She closed her house, her and Aldarion's house in Armenelos, and she never let Encalame leave her side. She was just a little pocket, put her in her pocket, never got to go anywhere without mom, and mom never really left Amarie. And just like Sam said, such love that she had was all given to her daughter, and she clung to her, which is not healthy for your daughter either. Like, that is, I don't know. I do a lot of things I don't want to do and put up with a lot of certain things that I don't want to put up with. And, there's a lot of things in life that you have to do that you don't want to for your children. And I don't know, in dismissing Aldarion the way she is, it's very, very damaging to her daughter.
Yeah, and to shut out every other voice and social interaction, and just like, I mean, it kind of reminds me of like Mother Gothel and Rapunzel, right? Like, she's, I mean, obviously this is her actual mom, but she's robbing her of a childhood full of, friendships and joy and learning and social skills and stuff like that. And she's just saying, nope, you're better off with me. And
not even a good version of her. Not even a good version of her. Not even a good mom version.
Yeah, I was super depressed, like, honestly, very sick spiritually and emotionally version. Yeah.
And so Erendis' house in Amarie was described as having little enough laughter and no music, because basically it was in Númenor, the men played instruments and the women sang. And so the only music that Encalame heard growing up was the women singing, and the only time they would sing is when they were far out away from the white lady of the house, is how they called Erendis, what they called her. And that's the only time they would sing, is when they were away from the house. Like, joy was not allowed at their house. And actually one day when Encalame was about 7, so this is 3 years already after Aldarion had left, she was out running around in the fields, and she ran into a little boy. And it's kind of a funny little dialogue that they have between the two of each other, because it's definitely a little boy speaking. He says something along the lines of like, "You're a pretty girl, but too thin. Won't you eat something?" Like, basically they just go back and forth a few times, and then her caretaker comes out and like shoos the boy away, and she looks at her caretaker and she goes, "What noisy thing was that?" Like, she didn't even know what a boy was. No men were allowed, except for, like Sam mentioned, a rare, messenger from the king. And
it's crazy. What noisy thing?
What noisy thing was that? And it's like, yeah, there were 3 of us growing up. I can't imagine.
Yeah, I was never the noisy one.
Sure. And so she really knew nothing of men, and after her caretaker mentioned her father as the Lord Aldarion, she was talking about the little boy. She was like, "Oh, his dad's off with the Lord Aldarion at sea." And she returns home and goes up to Erendis, and she basically says, "Hey, is the Lord Aldarion another name for my father? Is that who she was talking about? Is that my dad?" And she says yes, but she was taken aback and she was worried, because she was like, Tolkien said no word concerning Aldarion had passed between them before. So they hadn't even talked about him.
Wow.
I mean, think
Like,
about
she's
that.
completely shut him out. Yeah.
There is a wall, and there's nothing penetrating that wall.
Jeez.
I mean, this is just not fair to Caleb, in my opinion. Like,
no.
As a father, I don't know. I don't even want to speculate. Thankfully, I don't have to. But as a father, I would be deeply hurt by this. Granted, a lot of it was Aldarion's own doing, but man. And so Caleb asks Erendis and is basically like, well, when is my father going to return? It's like, I'm 7 now. And Erendis actually yells at her, and she's like, do not ask me. I do not know. Never, perhaps. But don't trouble yourself, for you have a mother, and she will not run away while you love her.
So toxic, man.
That seems pretty manipulative to me.
Mm-hmm.
And even if, I don't know, even if you have all these walls up, don't you want your daughter to still know who her father was? The fact that she is a princess, an heir to the throne of Númenor. Well, technically she's not an heir. She becomes one later on in the story, but it's just, I don't know. Like I said, everything up until this point, I blame Aldarion, and pretty much everything past this is, maybe most of it is on Erendis.
Yeah, and like you said, there's definitely a causation effect here with kind of how Eldarion's treated Erendis, but there's definitely this, like we said, like her mother said, on this all or nothing. Like, all right, well, he's chosen the sea. We're done.
Yep.
When it's like, no, just for a little bit. Like, I just need some time. I'll be back, and I'll give myself back to you. But yeah, she's like, to turn. But you have your mother. Like, you don't need your dad, and that's just, I mean, statistics will show you in real life, like, that's just not a good thing.
It's not
like,
good.
Fathers are so important, and I'm not just trying to toot my own horn as a dad that's, still around with my kids, but they're so important. And I see so many of our students in our student ministries who don't have either a dad or even like somebody who's close in their lives to help teach them, and it's so obvious.
Yeah.
And there's so much brokenness and honestly sadness, and it's just a lot of identity issues as well. They don't know who they are. They don't know whose they are. They don't know just how to interact with girls even too. Like, there's just a lot of issues, like, at least on the guy's side, and definitely for the girls too. But she's shutting out a very, very important part of Caleb's life.
Yeah, very much so. It's tragic. It really is. And I don't know, I've read this story many times, but this is the first time I've really gone through it after being a father. And it hits different than it did before. That's for sure.
Absolutely.
So moving along, when Caleb was 9, so Aldarion left when she was 4, right? It was her 4th birth, just after her 4th birthday, and now she's 9. So he was gone 5 years when he said he would only be gone 2. So when she was 9, Aldarion returned to Romena, and word was sent to Emarier to be like, hey, Aldarion's coming back. Like, maybe we should send word to him or meet him or tell him where to, meet up. Like, let's communicate a little bit. And Erendis just blew it off. She did not speak of it. And so there was absolutely nobody to greet Aldarion, and he rode straight through in the rain to Armenelos, to his house, to find it shut and boarded and not a welcoming place for him. So he obviously was gone for a very long time, but he returned and everything is different, including what he thought was his home. So right after that, he goes, well, all right, well, I don't have my own home. I better go talk to Dad. And he does have a reason he has to go talk to Tarim and Eldor, but he that's the only place he really has to go, honestly. And so he goes, and even Tarim and Eldor was very cold toward him, and stated that 3 years was far longer. He was 3 years overdue, and that was far longer than he had said. And Aldarion got like angry with him, and he said, alas, for even I am weary of the sea. And then he's like, you know what, forget it. Like, I have a message to deliver to you as an envoy, and you are the king. You're not my dad. You're the king. You're not treating me like a son. I've been gone. I'm emotional and weary, and I'm just being chastised. So forget that. I'm an envoy. I have a message for you. And we'll read most of, if not all of the message next time. It's a long passage, but there's a ton of lore in it, and it's fantastic, but I won't spoil it. So he goes to give the message to him, and he says to his dad, he says, outside, nigh on 1,000 years have passed since the lords of the west sent their powers against Angband, and those days are forgotten or wrapped in dim legend among the men of Middle-earth. They are troubled again, and fear haunts them. I desire greatly to consult with you, to give an account of my deeds and my thought concerning what should be done. So he snaps into like professional mode. And Menildor says, yeah, I'll listen to you, but what you should do first is go find your wife and go home. That's what he tells him. He says, go home. And Aldarion replies with, go home? Like, if you know where that is, please tell me, where is my home? And man, that's not a fun conversation. And his dad basically says, yeah, she left. She's in Amarie. And that's where you're going to find her. You got to figure things out. Go try to smooth things over. Talk to your wife. And Aldarion just basically responded, well, that's right. He asked him, like, why didn't you go there first? And why didn't you find her first? And Aldarion just responded with, like, had any word been left for me whither to go, I would have gone directly from the havens. And then he basically gives the sealed letter with a signet on it that I'm not going to spoil. He gives it to his dad and departs for Amarie.
We had a staff meeting today, and our lead pastor's now Scott Nickel. He challenged our staff and encouraged our staff. Really, he said, like, before you have any like really tough conversations, or even like any like logistical, strategical conversations with your coworkers, you need to first ask them, like, how's your family? He said that's the first thing that you should ask them, and really get an idea of where they're at there first before jumping into business. And I think that's kind of like what Menildor is doing here. Like, hey, yes, yeah, we can talk about this official business stuff, but you need to go take care of your family. Like, you need to do that first and foremost. And I think that's a good wise thing to hold on to, as we, like to jump to the solution. We like to jump to like, all right, let's fix the problems and stuff. And it's like, no, just go to your family. So he does. Aldarion goes and he arrives in Amarie, and he blew a horn and leapt from his horse. And I kind of imagine he's like, yeah, I'm home. Like, here we go. And he sees Erendis for the first time, and as Tolkien puts it, as he always does so eloquently, clad in white, she stood upon the steps that went up to the pillars before the door. She held herself high, but as he drew near, he saw that she was pale and her eyes over bright, which is an interesting description.
It's a very interesting description.
So he gets there, and he's like, "Hey, what's up, girl? Been a minute." And as we've seen before, Erendis has a very cold welcome for Aldarion, and very passive aggressive. And she pretty much says, "All right, if you're gonna stay here, there's a guest room ready for you. And if you're cold, call for a fire. One of our servants will help you out. They'll make you a fire. But yeah, you're not even just on the couch. Like, you're not in my room at all. You're not even anywhere near us. Like,
right.
You're just a guest.
And I'm not going to help you. My servants will."
Exactly. Yeah, I don't want to be near you is pretty much how she's putting it. And so Aldarion is like, okay, when you have to, like, okay, this is not what I thought it would be. Got to shift gears in my brain, change my approach to this whole thing. And so she tells him, though, like, he's like, I would have had a much better welcome prepared for you if you'd come on time. And he just kind of like shoves the comment off, and he goes, well, mariners aren't hard to please. Like, you didn't have to give me this big old warm welcome. Just some welcome would be nice. But she just continues to treat Aldarion like this guest rather than her husband that she deeply loves.
Or did.
Yeah, or did.
Yeah.
So he's like, whatever. I'm not going to fight this battle tonight. I'm tired and I'm weary of the sea, as he'd said before. And so he just goes to that guest room and falls asleep quickly. And when he wakes up, he's just angry. He's like, man, I came home and my wife seems to hate me. Like, what's the point in being here and he's like, I got all these plans I need to talk to my dad about with this letter. And so he planned to just leave for Armenelos without telling Erendis or Ankaime or anything like that. But she's up early as well and catches him in the doorway, and they have this short back and forth. And Aldarion understands that he hurt his wife, that he was gone longer than he was supposed to, and so they kind of go back and forth. But he understands, like, he has a daughter, he has an offspring that he really does care about still, and he wants to spend time with her. But Erendis is really pushing back, as we've talked about already. She's kind of she doesn't even acknowledge that the girl has a father anymore, like we mentioned.
She's dead to him,
and she pretty much, she's implying that he's lost the right to be his father, to be her father. Like, she's implying to him that, like, you don't have the right to be a part of this girl's life anymore. Which that's a really hard thing to do, again, like we talked about. But even so, she permitted Aldarion to see in Calime when she woke up. And when Calime wakes up early and she's like, why, who is this that's waking me up early? Is kind of how they put it. Like, why did I wake up so early? Who are you? She literally asks her dad this question: who are you? I mean, can you imagine hearing that from Evie, from Ben? Like, who are you?
Oh, man.
That would hurt so much.
There are few things in this life up until this point that give me as much joy as hearing Evie say, "Daddy, Daddy, Daddy." There are few things, and I can't wait to hear Ben say it. I can't imagine one of them looking up at me and saying, "Who are you?"
It's brutal. Absolutely brutal. And man, instead of like saying, "Hey, it's your dad. Like, I'm sorry I've been gone, but I'm here now. I'm here for you." He vaguely says, "You knew me once." And he kisses her hand and leaves. Like, part of me, like, he understands Erendis is not going to let him have this. But me, dude, I'm like, dude, stand up and fight for your family. Fight for your daughter, at least. Like, take this moment to show Erendis that you're here for her, that you can be this dad. Like, do that. But he just leaves.
It's almost like Erendis was testing him, in a sense. And so she had killed him off. He's dead to her in her mind. And when he showed up, like, her eyes were over bright. And she was pale. And those two things tell me that she's shocked and she doesn't really know what to do. And also, this person that she has completely written off, that she is excluded from her life, now has a little bit of an in, right? With her eyes being over bright. And that tells me that it was almost like a crap test for Aldarion, the way she was treating him. Are you going to man up and apologize and take charge and be the man and the husband and the father that you need to be, or are you just going to run away again?
Yeah. And I mean, Tolkien even says that, because after, he leaves, Erendis stood watching him leave, and she reminisces on her mother, Nuna's words. Like, she's like, yeah, man, that was going to happen. And to your point, I think she was hoping there would be some reconciliation. I think she was hoping to, like, win the argument. After Ariel gave birth to Ellis, I printed out a bunch of 3 papers with little pull-off tabs that she can, free Chick-fil-A or a massage, or, I do bedtimes, kid-free afternoon, whatever. And one of the tabs on there, which I'm still nervous that I put on there, is automatic argument win. Doesn't matter what argument we are having, she can pull that tab and
what?
She wins. It's one tab. It's one tab. And
they will all be pulled except for that one. You realize that 10 years down the road, she's going to rip that piece of paper off. What have you done to yourself? This is like Barney Slapbet level of horror that you have inflicted upon yourself.
For real, yeah. It's just gonna be like in the back of my mind, and every argument we have, like, oh crap, she can just pull this tab, and I can't. I have to shut up. But I think that's kind of like where she was feeling like, all right, I'm gonna win this argument, like, and rightfully so. Like, he's been gone, and he's not been treating me well, so I'm just gonna put my foot down and really be stubborn about this until you apologize and you show me love and that you give in and you say you're sorry. He doesn't.
Neither of them are willing to put their pride aside.
Yeah. And so she's, like you said, she was hoping that, maybe we could start back over again, but he met her with just as much contempt contempt as she met him with. So Aldarion, he leaves and he's like, man, well, I gotta go hang out with somebody that maybe will actually care about me, care that I'm here. So he goes to one of his companions who was on the trip with him, Olbar, and he goes there and they're having a party for Olbar, which has got to sting. Like his wife is throwing him this big old welcome home party, and so Aldarion's like just kind of like walks in on the party, like, hey guys, how's it going? And everyone's dancing and celebrating and singing and having a great time, celebrating the return of Olbar. And Olbar's son comes up to Aldarion, and I can imagine like this like young kid gleamer in his eye, and he's like, well, how old do you have to be to sail? And Aldarion in this really bad mood, because again, he's like, this should have been me receiving this kind of a welcome, but instead, like, I'm watching one of my buddies get that. He goes, as old as the hills and with no other hope in life. What?
Yikes.
But then he just like, or whenever he has a mind. Like, you can tell, like, he let the intrusive thoughts win at the beginning, and then he's like, wait, I'm talking to a child. Hold on.
Yeah.
Or whenever he has a mind. Like, whenever you want, man. You can do whatever you want. But this dude's, like, a mental wreck, and he's not showing it. I think he's doing the classic guy, like, stuffing things down and trying to pretend it doesn't matter or doesn't mean anything to him. But he's bubbling, and it's going to burst here pretty soon.
That's tough.
So,
oh man.
Yeah, but he's like, well, is anyone gonna like welcome me here? Is like your wife gonna, or it's like, what's with your mom? Is she gonna come say hi to me? And so she ends up coming over and says hi, and he ends up giving her this really beautiful jewel that he had gotten as gratitude for her husband's service on the trip with them. But then he just leaves on his own, and he goes back to Armenelos, and he never set foot in Amaria again. Which again, as we talked about, like, are you going to fight? Are you going to stand up? Are you going to go back there and prove to Erendis that you care about your daughter and her? Well,
there's your answer.
He never set foot in the Maria again. And he leaves, and he's probably bitter and sad and maybe even a little regretful too. Like, he's just in one of those moments of life where there really is no hope. Like, nothing is going well for him.
You remember
even the thing that he...
Go ahead. No.
I was just gonna say, like, even the thing that he loved, that he longed for, the sea, like sailing, even that now has a bitter taste in his mouth.
Well, remember last episode, I forget exactly how Tolkien phrased it, but when Aldarion was trying to woo Erendis and he was like chasing her around, and it was like Tolkien said, like, these were the most blissful days of his life, though he did not realize it until years later when he reflected upon it. And I wonder if it's starting to sink in a little bit, Man.
Yeah.
It's tough.
So this is where... Yeah, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, like I said, this story really... It's not so much the lore. Yeah, it's cool. It's interesting lore of Númenor. You kind of understand the people, the whatever, a little bit better. But the strength of this story really is the interpersonal. It's stuff that is applicable to our own lives, as Tolkien is very good at doing. He makes these stories that are, fantasy, but the content is so real that it is very easy for me to slip myself into Aldarion's shoes. It's a warning. It's guidance through a story about Númenor. You know what I mean? Like, it is Absolutely. So real. The interpersonal is so real in this story, probably deeper than a lot of other of his writings, because it's so focused on the interpersonal versus the story per se.
Right. And I mean, you think of like what we're used to with the trilogy and like the romantic interest. Like, I mean, you got Aragorn and Arwen, like Eowyn and Faramir. Like, it's all kind of good. Like, there's some tension, some stuff, but Rosie and Sam, like it's all like a happy ending bow kind of thing, except for Arwen. She doesn't get a happy ending really, but we don't really see that in the trilogy. That's more after the fact. But
right,
you're right. It's a very much like, no, this is the way it can go if you're not careful.
Yeah,
if you're not intentional with the time that you spend with your spouse. And I think we're really kind of understanding that now, especially with 2 kids. It's like there's got to be time for us in the midst of that. Like you mentioned, like being excited about when the kids go to bed. It's really easy just to be like, all right, well, we're exhausted. Let's watch one TV show, then fall asleep at 8:30 because that's pretty much our life.
Yep.
But we've been trying to just do a little bit more. We're reading a parenting book together where, sometimes we'll play just a little board game together or just do something different that's, just us and sparks a bit more interest with us. And obviously like our little getaway this weekend that I'm really excited about. Like it's a bit of a stretch financially that we're doing this and, having entrusting not family, but just a couple of friends.
It's terrifying.
Hopefully it is. I mean, with Bear it'd be fine, but with Ellis, I mean, he'll be 8 weeks at this point, like 2 months still, feeding from a bottle and stuff. So she's got some breast milk, like, loaded up, but I mean, he's not an easy baby. He cries a lot. Like they're just, but at the same time, it's something we see as such an important value to really show us that, yeah, we still matter to one another and we still, prioritize one another because
it's easy for that to slip.
I wouldn't leave for, yeah, it's super easy for it to slip. I mean, obviously I wouldn't leave for 5-6 years at a time, but I could stay an extra hour late at work because I feel like I need to, or, I could bring work home with me and start responding to emails and calls. And there's sometimes I have to do that, but I've definitely noticed when I need to be like, nope, I'm done with that. You're my priority now.
Yeah. Yeah. It's definitely easy to slip into those things. I'm glad that you guys are fighting that as well as you can. I'm excited for you guys to have some alone time. It's going to hopefully be a gift, but hopefully you're also not up all night worried about the kids.
Yeah. I kind of joked with Ariel, like we should do, cause we're like going to what is the quote unquote mountains of Kentucky, the Red River Gorge. Beautiful place really. But, it's like in the woods and stuff. And I told her, I was like, we should go on like a sunrise hike. And she's like, well, don't you want to sleep in without kids? I'm like, I think we'll be awake. Like, I don't think our bodies will just let us sleep.
Very possible.
We'll probably be up like 6:30. And that will be sleeping in, honestly. So,
yeah.
But yeah, man. Yeah, it's a tough story and it's a long story. So, part of me is really excited to be over with it just so we can kind of like jump back into some more lighthearted and creative elements of Tolkien's world. But at the same time, there's, like you said, there's a lot of wisdom and warning in these stories. And if nothing else, like if you're listening to this podcast right now and you're a dad or you're a husband or you're a to-be dad, like really pay attention to this. Or if you're a wife and you're a mom, like pay attention to not us, but like what Tolkien is sharing here.
Yeah.
And the warning and the caution and the wisdom that he offers here.
Definitely. Well, before you take us out, we probably should have done this at the beginning of the podcast, and I'll clip it and put it at the beginning for the YouTube video. But the Concerning Hobbits radio drama, I know that this is quite the great transition, right? Going from this heavy set Aldarion and Erendis, but the Concerning Hobbits radio drama, the first episode has been released. It's on Spotify right now. It's really well done. Did they finally spread it out? Okay. Search Concerning Hobbits then. I've listened to it a couple of times. It's really good. These are all people, all the voices, all the editing, all the writing. It's all just fans of Tolkien wanting to tell a Tolkien story and be involved. And it's absolutely incredible. The first episode is great. It's setting the stage for a lot of fun coming up. And Sam and I are both getting ready to record our parts for episodes 2 and 3. We don't have big parts, but hey, we're in there, and it's just a pleasure to be a part of it. And it's fun to see a group of passionate Tolkien fans create something. It's easy to just tear Rings of Power. Sorry, that's just right off the tongue. Rings of Power. It's so easy to just tear it apart, but it's really special to create something in place of that. As create something that should have been type of thing. So not that I can take any credit for anything at all. But it's just, it's awesome to be a part of it. So I just want to make sure we toss that in there.
Absolutely. Yeah, definitely should have been something that we said at the beginning. It's going to be, really excited for the next couple episodes that are coming out. And it's cool because like you said, it's a passion project. Like this is not expected to turn into like any sort of, there's no money involved. So, we're not trying to please anybody, or Lane rather, who's the writer. It's not like he's just sharing something he's passionate about and diving deeper into Hobbits, and it's pretty fun. And you find out there are some warriors amongst the the lineage of the hobbits that we'll get to see. So yeah, super fun. And it's like I said, it's fun to just be a part of, to like be like, yeah, I did that. Like that was, I had some place in the Tolkien world. In the renditions of it. It's kind of fun. So yeah, make sure to check that out. Like Seth said, Concerning Hobbits, anywhere you look on podcasts, you'll be able to find it. But yeah, go check that out. So we have come to the part of the podcast where we, as Gondor, calling for aid. This is the part of the podcast where we break into the halls of Mediceld and we shout, Gondor calls for aid. Will you, Rohan, answer? If you like the podcast, like Luke, like Alexia, please light a beacon of your own by sharing it with fellow friends and fans. And don't forget to like, subscribe, leave us a review. 5 stars, 1 star, doesn't matter. Just let us know what you think and share your Tolkien story with us. Do that wekpodcast@gmail.com and just share with fellow friends and fans, like I mentioned, because we just want to be a fellowship as we're doing this together. But like Seth said, until next time, we're going to jump into hopefully the conclusion of the Mariner's story. But until then, we will bid you a very fond farewell.